Hello everyone, Gary here again with POL 493, and today we're going to talk about e-government, some of the history of it, and where it's going and what it's like today. Alright, so what is e-government? What it stands for is electronic government, and really we're going to utilize the term e-government to describe m-government, which stands for mobile government, and i-government, which is interactive government, both terms that are heavily discussed in Professor Sundstrom's article. But we're going to go through the history of it, and first I want to kind of just talk about what it is. Basically, it's a way for the government to disseminate information rapidly and also to collect information from citizens. The cell phones that we have GPS, they have internet, and because of that, today we can get a lot of things out quickly and receive them just as fast. And so I'm going to go over the history and what was involved in getting us to this point, and then also how we can utilize it today to our benefit in the government. All right, so e-government has been in practice since the 1990s, and really that's because we've had the internet in most homes since that time. And with the internet, we had this increased demand for services without having to actually go to a specific location and request that information. Now, at this period of time, though, it was read-only, and so we really could only figure out how to perform a task. If we needed to pay our registration, for example, we might be able to figure out where the DMV is located, how to pay that registration, and the hours of operation. And so, yeah, that's great, but in today's age, we expect to be able to pay our registration through a mobile app. It's very quick, and it's something that we probably take for granted at this point. If a government agency doesn't have some sort of e-function to it, it's pretty frustrating actually from our standpoint. It feels like it's from the Stone Age when really 1990s wasn't that long ago. And so with the uptake of e-government, there was a lot of resistance and a lot of problems too. First off, you had to be connected to the internet, and really the only way to connect to the internet at this point was through a computer that was stationary at home. You didn't really have it you didn't have it in your pocket. You had no way to access it on the go. The other thing was the cost. The government quickly found that there was a cost savings to them. It was about $9 to do provide the service in person versus 65 cents on the high end, and so that's just a pretty significant cost savings to the government to provide this information electronically. So it didn't take very long before technology caught up with the need. And so with the advent of text messages, people were able to receive information quickly from the government. They could send text messages informing storm warnings, locations where maybe people could receive shelter, but really it was required that the citizens requested that they be notified through text message. They had to kind of go out of their way to be able to receive that information. And the image here I have is the BlackBerry, and back when these things came out, a lot of people called them crackberries, but the way that you viewed the internet was much different than what we have on the iPhone. It was really actually pretty awful. The websites were laid out really terrible. You couldn't really access the information you needed very easily, and also the internet access was very slow. It wasn't this 4G LTE that we have today. It was much slower than that, and data was very expensive back then as well. So most people didn't have these. It was usually business guys. And you usually saw them with like a belt clip walking around or something. It wasn't really what most users had, and so really we needed something that was going to equip us better to disseminate this information within the government, and that came along with the iPhone, which we're going to talk about on the next slide here. So when the iPhone came along, it made a lot of changes to the mobile market. The crackberry that we just saw, that had internet access, but it was really terrible internet. You didn't really see true web pages. Now on the iPhone, you have actual internet. You can see websites in the format that everybody at home can see them. There was a mobile version, and there was also the standard site, and so that was a huge change. It was also a phone that was affordable to everybody. and very user friendly. So everybody started jumping on board with these things, and before you know it, here we are today, where everybody's got an Android or an iPhone or some other form of smartphone. So now at this point, most of the population has some sort of smartphone, some sort of tablet, some way to be able to access information quickly, and it's usually always on their hip. And so now governments can quickly and easily disseminate information, but also gain user feedback. And so with GPS technology, for example, if you have potholes in your city, you have overflowing storm drains, anything, graffiti, anything you can really think of, you can report that stuff just by going through an app. And, and there's some challenges to that as well, which we're going to discuss on the next slide. Now, I think that the greatest challenge to utilizing these e-services is gaining buy-in. Just as an example, I didn't even know until we started this presentation that the city of Menifee, which is where I live, has a mobile app where you can perform these functions that I'm discussing here. And so I think that it's really important for the government to or city agencies to be pushing this information out there, letting everybody know that it's available to them and it's something that would really benefit their lives. So gaining involvement is a challenge, and I think that it's mostly because of a lack of awareness that the service even exists. And then the next thing is IT overhead. Now, it costs a lot of money to develop these programs and to maintain them. And so immediately your IT overhead is going to go up. But I think that that's expected, and it's something that hopefully would be offset by the number of personnel that are no longer needed on the other side of the spectrum in person, because most people would then be utilizing the e-services. And then the next thing is third-party software. Now, there's a lot of software out there developed by other city agencies to perform maybe the same task that we have, but it comes at a cost. So you're going to have to pay for it, and so there's costs that come to the cities because of they want to provide these e-services. And if they don't have citizen buy-in and people don't know about it, then it really feels like this gigantic waste of money. So it really takes all of these things coming together to be able to make it worthwhile. Now, here's my personal perspective on e-government. I think it's awesome. Until I bought my home, I wasn't really involved in my city. I didn't really have much input, but now that I own a home in Menifee, it really disturbs me when I see that storm drains are clogged, roads are destroyed, the streets maybe are dirty, there's crime, there's graffiti, if there's any poorly maintained parks, any code violations. I want to make sure that somebody knows about that so it can get fixed. And now that I know there's an app out there, I'm going to utilize that service and make sure that I report it as quickly as I can. The first thing that came to mind for me before I found out about the Menifee one, though, is that the city of Riverside has this 311 service. Not only can you call 311 from any location in the city to tell people about this, but also if you have the app, the 311 app in the city of Riverside, you can snap a photo of it, and then the GPS location would be provided to the city, and it's all real time. So they would gain this information right away, which is a huge benefit not only to the city but also to you. You send it off, and you know that your problem is on its way to somebody who can actually do something about it. And I think that makes you feel pretty empowered. The other thing is that within the article, it said that the people become then citizen watchdogs, and I couldn't agree more. If you have this app available to everybody, then all of a sudden you're going to have a lot more people looking out for the city, instead of just being those paid personnel. It's going to be all the people who actually care about the city and want it to be good. And so you're really increasing your numbers and the support that you have within your city by providing this service. So that's all I have on this. I appreciate your feedback. I hope we all have a good week, and see you guys next week.